Alright, so we had the book Rocket Boys by Homer H. Hickam Jr. So the story kind of begins with the reader learning about a boy named Homer Hickam Jr., also known as Sonny, because his dad is known as Homer Hickam Sr. or just Homer Hickam. He has a desire to build rockets and work for NASA once he hears the first satellite, Sputnik, that the USSR sent to space. During the story, he has a lot of just battles on trying to get materials, and he ends up making friends, and they make a group called the BCMA, the Big Creek Missile Agency, which they work on building rockets and trying to launch these rockets. The town right away hates this because they live in a coal mining town. The town's name is Coalwood, and I would say 75 to 80% of the people that work in the coal mines because it's the only source of income in that area. So, I don't know what else. Anything you guys else want to add?
When you think of when they build model rockets, I was thinking like as tall as a person, but they're like that big. I was kind of disappointed.
But these rockets start to, at first it's kind of a failure, and they're kind of really bad rockets that barely get off the ground, and eventually later on they get really good and they start to fly really high into the air. So, Taylor?
You got Homer Hickam Jr., he's basically the main character, and his nickname's Sonny because of his father. He created BCMA, and he's called the captain. He's a narrator, like I said, he's the main character. He builds and launches the rockets, meaning he focused on the fuel and the construction of the actual rocket. And the town didn't like the rockets, so he was told not to build them, but he ended up building them out of town, just a little bit far away.
And then Homer Hickam Sr. is the father of Homer Hickam Jr. and Jim, but he's not really important that much. And he's a strong, stoic employee of the mining company, the institution that dominates Coalwood. And he is devoted to Coalwood's mines because he's the manager there. And he dislikes Homer Jr. building rockets, and he wants him to work in the coal mine, but his mom kind of encourages him to build rockets.
And we'll learn about Mom. Elsie Hickam is the mother of Homer Hickam Jr. and the wife of Homer Hickam Sr. She absolutely hates that Homer Hickam Jr. is being pushed by his father to work in the coal mine. Elsie wants to see her son go to college and have a safer career than working in the coal mines because she knows how dangerous life can be there. She pushes Sonny to work. She's okay with Sonny building rockets because she knows that that's a way he can go to college instead of trying to work in the mines.
Like get out of town and not be in that area anymore.
For Homer Hickam Jr., he actually worked for NASA afterwards for a little while. The members of the BCMA is Riley. He's a friend of Sonny since they were little, and his father was killed in a mine accident. And he has the car. He's the oldest. And, Sherman, publicity manager, which basically he just throws up the signs and But he suffers from polio, and he's really good math student. He was in the algebra club or something. And Odell is the treasurer of the BCMA and responsible for getting materials for the rockets, like the metal they need and then the cement to build the pad they needed. And then Quentin is socially awkward, but he's really, really smart, and he was kind of offended when they didn't want him.
And then this is Roy Lee, Odell, and Quentin, and we couldn't find a picture for Sherman from the movie.
Did they have him in the movie?
I didn't watch the movie.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna wait
Okay, then.
until after. And then vocabulary, sonoros, which is producing sound, especially a deep
Resonance.
resonant sound. Precipitously, dangerously high or steep, and it can also mean done suddenly without careful consideration, like when they put a rocket into the coal mine. Chortle, a chuckle with delight. Vexed, irritated or annoyed, and reconciliation is a restoration in family or friendships.
So why were those words important?
So reconciliation is important because in the family it's kind of two sides. It's Sonny and Elsie versus Jim, which is the brother of Sonny, and then Homer Hickam Sr. Those two, Homer Hickam Sr. wants his boys to work in the mine, and Jim wants to work in the mine, and Elsie wants to see her boys go to college and succeed academically. Vexed, a lot of times Homer Hickam Sr. is irritated or annoyed with the fact that Sonny wants to build rockets because he doesn't see it as a future, he sees it as wasted time. Precipitously is a way they described how some of the rockets got fired off. They were kind of it was kind of set off without care or consideration because one of the rockets ended up next to the coal mine, which if it had burned up or a fire had started, that could have caused an extreme danger to that area. Sonorous is producing that sound. A lot of times the rockets, later in the book, the rockets would fire off with a loud sound. Big ideas. I had, what change do we see in the town from the beginning of the book to the end of the book? So in the beginning of the book, the town absolutely hates the idea of these boys making these rockets and shooting these rockets off because they see it as dangerous and reckless. But by the end of the book, when the boys have gone through so much and battled adversity throughout the book, the town is rallied behind them and loves. Now the whole town gathers to where the boys launch rockets, and they all see the rockets fly up into the air.
What is one thing you're good at, and how would you feel if that one thing you were good at is taken away from you? And why I picked that was because at the very beginning, like closest to the beginning, the boys needed calculus for the fuel they needed. They needed to learn calculus so they can calculate that. And the teacher wouldn't actually teach him, or teach Sonny, and he said that he was good at it, and it was taken away from him because the teacher wouldn't actually teach it to him.
Because there were only like 6 spots in the class, and Sonny was the 7th person to sign up because his GPA didn't allow him to be the 6th top spot.
But I picked that because I just wanted to, like, most of you are good at sports here. Like, if sports was taken away from you completely, how would you feel? You know, you probably feel pretty crappy, right? That's why I did that. Yes.
So we have a couple big ideas. We have big idea of change. And this one, what are we really getting at? Are we getting at being excluded, or are we getting at perseverance, or what?
Because he ends up learning calculus from a neighbor or something that taught him. And it's for basically just knowing, you're trying to feel how he felt when he could do something. So he did end up finding a different way to learn calculus. But
So what's the big idea we're looking for there?
Perseverance. He
Perseverance.
persevered because at first he was told, no, you can't take this class, but he still found a way, and he tried to learn calculus without a teacher, and he ended up getting some help, and he had to persevere to learn it, because calculus is not an easy class for mathematics. So.
Well, that's also a man versus society issue. The social rules in that school said you can only be accepted if, and how are we going to change that? How are we going to force change? Are we going to change the system, or are we going to go out on our own? We have things going on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor.
Okay, and my big idea is, do Elsie and Homer Sr. actually love each other? Because throughout the book, they got into a lot of arguments and fights about Homer Jr. making rockets, and his dad didn't want him to do that at all. He wanted just to focus on getting good and like visiting the coal mine more so he could get used to it. And Elsie wanted Homer Jr. to go to college and build rockets more. And I wonder if they actually did love each other, because they got in like so many fights and arguments, and like one supported one son and one supported the other, and they didn't really see eye to eye on that. But in the end, I think that they actually did love each other, because his dad started to get used to the idea of him building rockets and supported him.
So what's the bigger message there about love or relationships?
Even though it's hard sometimes, like even though you get into fights, you still gotta like see the big picture of like, it doesn't matter what he does with his life, you still gotta like stay together and support each other.
So it's okay to have differences.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree 100% of the time.
Before we go on to the next slide, I just wanted to show you guys how much Ellis did not want him in the coal mine. Because one time he was doing fuel, he was making fuel in his basement where he works on all the rockets. And he blew up his stove. Like, I don't know how it happened, but he blew up his stove, and his mom got home and she started laughing about it. She's just like, don't worry, I'll just get your dad to give me a new one. And so she did. And then one time he came home absolutely plastered drunk because they needed moonshine or alcohol for a fuel, and the guys that they got it from ended up having them drink and all that stuff. And so he came home and he was drunk, and his mom just sent him to bed without punishing him, even though he thought he was gonna punish him, or he was gonna get punished. So
His mom wasn't like laid back and relaxed about that. She knew what was going on, but she thought that was better than him learning about that kind of thing was better than him going off to a coal mine and working in it, being dangerous there. So a critical response we have is the author definitely has a knack for writing well, and the book is very entertaining and captive. By Eli Bendersky on a book review, he's a critic of it. It gets really, with the rockets, it's really well written, as in the end there, as our second one, it's almost too perfectly, where it's just kind of like everything clicks together almost too well. Like, you know, something should have gone wrong, but it didn't go wrong. I thought it was a good book. It was a lot of science and math and learning about rockets and all that type of deal that went into it, and it was just a lot of revising their gas or fuel and rockets and a bunch of other things.
And we can stop here if you want, because I wanted to talk about this, because this book takes place in the 50s, right? So people are just coming out of a depression from the 20 years before that. But this town is still in a bust because their coal mine is depleting, and they keep digging farther and farther, but they can't find enough money. So what they're doing, this whole story, you could kind of relate it to Friday Night Lights, where how Odessa is, their only thing is football. For these people, rockets are their way of escaping reality, right? Because for people in Odessa, it was football that helped them get through every day. At the end of the story, it was rockets for everybody. And it shows you how you can change a whole town's perspective on something, and at the end of it, the town comes together and helps the boys for a fair. So just wanted to talk about that.
And did you have a creative component?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's
Is it a video?
The social media.
No,
social
account.
media account.
Okay, you can pull it up. I'll just let your teachers know we're running a little bit late. It's fine. So you made a Facebook page for homework?
Yep. So what we kind of did is made a Facebook page. We had, when he was born, the network he kind of worked with, we like to call the Big Creek Missile Agency. And then just, Homer started with Who Wants to Start a Rocket Club, and it was just a long list, and he got all the friends with it. So, and his birthday was an actual birthday, he's an actual person, and that's, he was born in 1943 on February 19th in Coalwood, West Virginia, which is still a town. They have a festival kind of relating to this. It's more of a tourist thing. The coal mine is not operational, don't think anymore. So.
Good. Any final words? Oh, it has multiple pages on it.
Just
Yeah.
two.
Cool.
Yeah, see,
Who would you recommend this book for?
People who like science.
Like science and math. I'd go high school age through early college. You have to really kind of like science and math to get into it. There's some funny parts that are kind of cool, and there's some really science and nerdy stuff that's in the book. But I like the book.
It was alright.
I really could get into it. I mean, it was good at some points because it got really, really exciting, and then it slowed down again, and then it went up back again. You know, it was a roller coaster of just getting through it, I guess.
Thank you guys. Give them a hand.